Hello, podcasters. This week's episode focuses on mental health. We talk to Wounded Heroes Ambassador Casey Nixon. If any veteran is suffering from PTSD or mental health problems, please reach out to Wounded Heroes Australia. Call them on 1300 853 080, or you can check out their Facebook page at Wounded Heroes Australia, or you can get in contact with them via their website at www.woundedheroes.org.au for more information on the assistance available to you. G'day! Welcome to True Blue History. I'm Adam Blum. Today's special guest is Casey Nixon, and Casey has joined us today to talk about her career in the Australian Army and her career outside of the Defence Force working for Wounded Heroes Australia, an organisation that advocates for the mental health services for our veterans who have served in the ADF. Hi Casey, thanks for joining us on the show to tell your story and raise awareness for Wounded Heroes Australia and what they do for veterans.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Casey, and just talk about a topic that is very close to my heart and also to Australians as well. So your father and your partner are veterans. Does your family have a history of military service?
So yes, my dad, actually my stepdad, served for 20 years in the Australian Army. Started out as an infantry soldier and moved through as a para instructor. He finished as a warrant officer class 2 in signals unit. Also, my now fiance, Daniel Kieran, served for 10 years at 6 RAR. And he is probably mostly well known for his Victoria Cross, which is the highest award in the Australian Honours and Awards system for his actions in 2010 in Darwin. So yes, I do have a partner and dad that has served in both army, but no, we don't have an extended family history per se.
So your father, whereabouts did he serve in his 30-year career?
He served all over Australia, Townsville, Sydney, definitely Pucka, and a bit of time at Kapooka training new soldiers as well.
Okay, so was your father, with his service, was he a major influence in your decision to enlist in the Australian Army? And what was your father's response for your decision to join the Army?
Well, yes, he was a major influence on my decision, obviously. Just seeing the mateship and the integrity and respect is something that I had always inspired me, because of him. His response was obviously very positive. Both of my dads were very proud of me going through. Probably a little bit surprised. I am a bit of a girly girl. So I think they were both a little bit surprised on that. But anyway, we got through it.
Absolutely. So during your service, you were a private in one Combat Signals Regiment in Darwin. Were there any particular events that made you aware of the severity of mental health for serving and retired service personnel? And if possible, can you tell us about what struck you the most?
I can't say that there was a particular event that happened while I was in defence, which is a great thing. What I can say is that mental health conditions were not spoken about as openly as what they're spoken about today. But I have no doubt saying that I have no doubt that they existed. It just wasn't spoken about as openly as what we do now.
Absolutely. And I saw in my research before getting you on the podcast that you transitioned out of the Army and you went into civilian life. Was that hard for you leaving the Defence Force and transitioning?
It wasn't hard for me to transition, though. Getting out, all I had, all my qualifications was a forklift license. So I didn't have any qualifications leaving the Army, which made it quite difficult to get a job outside of defence. Though I think that no matter if you're in for a short amount of time or 28 years like my dad, I think that the transition period for soldiers to civilian life is the most important and most crucial for people's mental health, like you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. And I think, Casey, a key point that I think of is whether you've done 4 years, whether you've done 20 years or whatever, you've signed on the dotted line to do military service. So in my eyes, that you're a veteran. Whether you made the conscious decision to sign the blank check of your life to fight for your country. And I think that's something that is forgotten a lot these days. And I think it's the perception of people is that to be a veteran, you have to serve overseas. And it's just not the case. I don't believe that's the case. What do you think of that?
It's funny that you mentioned that, actually. A close friend of mine, Heston Russell, and I had this conversation about 3 weeks ago. My opening line, because people don't often realize that I am ex-defense. I guess I just don't look like I have come from a defense background. I'm not sure, but Heston and I had this conversation about I say I was only in for 2 years. He pulled me up and said, "Why do you say that you were only in for 2 years? Because you are a veteran, because you signed up for 2 years, no matter if it was 12 months, no matter if it was 10 years, you're still a veteran." And for other people, I see them as veterans. So if someone else that I know has been in for only 2 years or for 2 years or 4 years or 15 years, I see them as a veteran, but it's hard for me to see myself as a veteran because I didn't go overseas and I didn't do those things. So it's hard for me to call myself a veteran, though I am happy to call other people veterans and to recognize their service and what they have done.
I think it's a common thing that is across the board. I think that people who, like yourself, who may have only been in a short time, they don't see themselves as veterans, and you are. So, and all we can say is that the Australian public is thank you. Thank you for doing your service. Like that's, it, although it was short and for you, it was probably when you joined the army, you were probably foreseeing it as a long career. Like for you, it would have been a very long career.
Yeah, that's right. I joined originally in 2010 with the intentions of becoming an officer and for it to be a long-term career choice for me. And after I joined, I decided that it just wasn't for me. I wanted to throw my high heels on and support defense on the other side of the fence instead of, being away from my family, because defense life, military life is hard work.
Absolutely. And recently you became an ambassador for Wounded Heroes Australia, which is a charitable support organisation for Australian veterans. Can you share with us what the mission of Wounded Heroes is and what inspired you to become involved with this organisation?
Mm-hmm. So, Wounded Heroes is a charity organisation. It was established back in 2007, actually. So they've been around for a while, and their main mission is to support Australian soldiers and veterans, as well as their families, through financial or emotional or personal hardship. The reason why I joined Wounded Heroes was because Wounded Heroes is an organisation which solely relies on volunteers and donations from the public to help veterans and their families. They work so hard and they do such an amazing job at helping veterans through crisis situations.
In practical terms, Casey, how does Wounded Heroes assist service personnel and their families? Because their families are often the forgotten ones.
So Wounded Heroes support soldiers, veterans and their families through financial and emotional support and through crisis situations. So providing them with immediate housing, or if a veteran's going through a tough time and they've had their power cut off, paying power bills just so that they can get that little bit of relief. Maybe buying their groceries, their weekly groceries, just to get the pressure off their shoulders. And that immediate support as well. So in some cases, we've been able to get out to a veteran who's in need within 30 minutes, which is outstanding. They need that support right then and there, and that's why they're calling us. And to be able to get out there that quickly, outstanding.
So how does this assistance differ from other charitable organisations, or perhaps is it meant to help fill a gap in assistance for service personnel?
I believe that the immediate response to the crisis situation is probably the main thing that I'm not sure a lot of organisations can provide. I'm not saying that they don't provide it, but they can't provide it. And being able to get an Uber Eats out to a family that has their partner away or their family member away, getting the support that he or she needs. So I think just that immediate support is probably the biggest thing.
On the Wounded Heroes Australia website, it states that 48.4% of veterans discharging from the Defence Force develop mental health issues within the first 12 months of discharge. Do you think that the Australian public are aware of the severity mental health issues pose for ex-serving personnel, and how can that be changed?
I do think that the Australian public are becoming more aware of the mental health conditions in ex-serving personnel and veterans. I do think that it can be changed, and I think that it is starting to be changed. There's a stigma around, or I believe that there's a stigma around veteran mental health, and we're slowly changing it, and we're doing a great job, and we just need to stick at it.
Historical service personnel who suffered from mental health issues were described as having shell shock. Often there was a stigma attached to this diagnosis, as it was felt that it represented either a weak mental condition or someone who was a coward. This was a common belief during World War One. It has gradually improved since then as better understanding of mental health issues has developed. However, do you think that some of this attitude still exists today? And is that the reason why veterans find it hard to ask for help?
Yeah, it's that stigma that I just spoke about, Adam. The stigma around being weak or, losing courage. That needs to change. That stigma around it needs to change. But I think that we are getting there. As I said before, we are getting there. But it is still hard for people to reach out and say, there is something wrong with me and I need help. And why wouldn't it be? But we need to let go of that stigma and those thoughts, those internal thoughts that we have, and be able to reach out.
From your perspective, as an ambassador for Wounded Heroes, what do you see as the most important role that the organisation can offer service personnel, veterans, and their families?
Support. Who is there to support the supporters? Our families support the veterans in the family with mental health conditions, but who is there to support them really? So I think that because Wounded Heroes are there to support not only the veterans and the soldiers, they're there to support the families of those personnel as well. And I think that is very, very important to be able to do.
Absolutely. So since you became involved with Wounded Heroes, what are you most proud of being a part of?
I couldn't pinpoint one event or situation in particular that I am proud of. I think overall the impact that Wounded Heroes has on the veteran community is what I'm most proud of, and that's why I joined Wounded Heroes, because they make a difference, and I want to make a difference. I want to be able to support veterans where I can.
Absolutely. And I think it's podcasts like this, Casey, that bring a wider exposure to such a important topic.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So for people wanting to know more or to get involved with Wounded Heroes, what do they need to do?
If you want to get involved with Wounded Heroes, I would probably reach out on our Facebook page, or even send an email through the contact link on our website. So that's just woundedheroes.org. Someone will be able to get back to you and maybe have a conversation about what your availability is to be able to support Wounded Heroes and what we have going on.
what current projects has Wounded Heroes got in the pipelines at the moment?
So we do have a very busy year for 2021. I just met with our CEO, Martin Shaw, last week, actually, and we have a lot going on this year. But the most recent one that is coming up in March is our Veteran Lounge, and that will be a place for soldiers or veterans or their families, spouses, to be able to go and sit there and have meetings or just relax, just a safe haven where they can go get some peace and quiet, have a coffee. We've got all of our coffee provided from Conquest Coffee. They can go and have a coffee. There's computers there, TV, just an escape, really.
I think that's a very important space, Casey, and I think it'll be used very well by the veterans because it'll become like a family and a close-knit place where they can just go and talk to other veterans or just talk to people. I think it's a fantastic job that you guys are doing, and well done to you and the team.
Yeah, thank you. We're really, really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So as a veteran yourself and an ambassador for Wounded Heroes, what would your message be for those struggling with and adjusting to life after their military service?
My message to those people who may be struggling is you need to find the purpose. I think a lot of situations are created out of losing that sense of purpose, and there is always hope there. There's always hope that it will come back. There's always hope for you. Don't lose hope. And if you need help, it is not weak to reach out to your friends. You would not think little of one of your mates reaching out and saying, hey, I need support right now. This is what's happening. And I think that peer-to-peer connection is stronger than anything because your peers or your soldiers know what you've been through. It is not weak to reach out.
Absolutely. And I think if any message of all of this podcast is, Casey, it's not weak to speak. You're not weak to speak out and ask for help. Whether it's just talking to someone on the phone or whether you do a face-to-face or a Zoom meeting or anything, if you're feeling down, just speak to someone. Casey, it's a vital message.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Just to wrap it up, Casey, what do you see for the future of Wounded Heroes Australia? Where do you see the organisation going?
I think the Wounded Heroes are doing an amazing job with supporting veterans and their families already. I think the continued work that they're doing with some more volunteers and more donations to be able to provide more support for veterans and their families is something that we can't look past.
Absolutely. You just mentioned volunteers. So if someone wants to volunteer, how do they become a volunteer for Wounded Heroes?
So probably reaching out on our Facebook page or our website to become a volunteer. We just need to know pretty much your availability and we will be able to find somewhere that you can help.
Well, on that note, Casey, thank you for just giving our listeners a little bit of background behind Wounded Heroes Australia. So, Casey Nixon, thank you for joining True Blue History.
Thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review for the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. And if you feel like supporting us, you can now via our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/True Blue History, or buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/True Blue History, and check out our new website, truebluehistory.com, for more great content.